Hello everybody, this is Mr. McGrew. It's time to do a video lesson. I know, we're going to watch some slides, we're going to take some notes, and we're going to listen to what I have to tell you about some fun stuff today. Since we're doing this on video, I hope you'll know that you can pause and rewind as much as you like so that you can move at the pace that works for you, but I do want you to pretend like we're sitting in class when we're watching this video, like we're looking at these slides on the screen, like we're taking notes, because this is not bonus content. This is a real lesson, stuff that is going to be fair game for a test or future assignments. So if you need to go ahead and pause and get yourself prepared, make sure you're in a place without distractions. Make sure you've got something to write on and something to write with. If you need to pause and rewind and go back and take your time, that's just fine. But we're going to go ahead and get started and talk about the Minutemen and the Midnight Ride. YouTube makes me keep these videos shorter than 15 minutes, and so I might have to split this video into two if I run a little bit long, but I hope to be brief. And so here we go. We already know that at the end of the First Continental Congress, many of the patriots there leave knowing that it's about time to get ready to fight. The patriot Patrick Henry delivers a speech in March of 1775 in which he says, "To give me liberty or give me death," meaning that in his mind it is better to die fighting for the cause of freedom than to continue living under the tyranny of King George III and the tyranny of England. All across the colonies now, local militias, local groups of fighting men are getting more serious about training and gathering supplies and equipment. They know that a fight is coming. Now, who are these militias? Well, they're not professional soldiers. They're not a formal standing army because the colonies didn't have their own army. But they had men who were armed and knew a little bit about fighting and were organized so that if the time ever came where they had to fight to protect their communities, to defend their colony, they were the ones that were called upon to do that. And the colonists understand that it's probably going to be these men who are the first ones that are going to have to fight against the English soldiers. So they're going to take it more seriously, work harder to train them and to equip them better, and to train some of them even more. The best of these militia men were trained and equipped in a way so that they could be given only a moment's notice of a fight coming and be ready. Be equipped and be present and be ready to fight and to fight well. The best of these men who were trained to be ready to fight at a moment's notice are called the Minutemen, as in they would be ready to fight in just a minute. Now, England can tell what they're doing. They can see that the colonists are getting ready to fight, preparing for a war, and unsurprisingly, they don't like that. They don't want the colonists to rebel and fight against their army. They want to keep them from being able to do so. They want to disrupt what they're doing. They want to arrest their leaders. They want to take away their supplies. They don't want the colonies to develop any sort of an army. In Massachusetts especially, of course it's in Massachusetts where a lot of this is going to go down. The governor of Massachusetts, this man right here in the photo, Thomas Gage, he is ordered personally by the King of England to take action against the militias in Massachusetts to prevent them from being able to organize any sort of armed resistance against the English military. He has orders now to stop the Massachusetts militias, and in April 1775, General Gage, the governor of Massachusetts, finds out that there's a militia in Massachusetts who is storing their weapons and supplies in a town near Boston called Concord. He also knows that two members of the Sons of Liberty, two leaders of the Patriots, the men pictured here on the left side of the screen, Samuel Adams, who we've already heard about, and John Hancock as well. He was a member of the First Continental Congress. Not only are their supplies being kept in Concord, but these two men are staying in the nearby town of Lexington, also a small town outside of Boston. So General Gage intends to send his soldiers to Concord to steal those supplies and to send them to Lexington to place Sam Adams and John Hancock under arrest. Here's a map of the area that we'll look at again in a moment. But here you see the city of Boston in the lower right here on the water in the bay. And then up here to the northwest, the town of Lexington, where Adams and Hancock are. And then further to the west, the town of Concord, where the militia is keeping their guns and supplies. That plan may have succeeded. They may have been able to disarm the Boston militia and to arrest Hancock and Adams. But the Patriots found out about this plan. Paul Revere, a member of the Sons of Liberty, found out what was going to happen. He didn't know exactly when it was going to happen, but he knew he had to be ready. So he came up with a plan to warn the soldiers and to warn Samuel Adams and John Hancock when they were going to come, when the soldiers were going to come, and from what direction, how they were going to come. You see, the soldiers could have either left Boston on foot from the south, marching over the land toward Lexington and Concord, or they could have left Boston from the north by getting on a ship and crossing the bay and coming by sea. Paul Revere wanted to come up with a plan to let people know how they were coming, and so he came up with a plan where he was going to wait on the other side of the bay with a horse, and a friend of his was going to stay in Boston. And in the Old North Church, a large church in Boston with a tall steeple, in the window, the friend was going to hang either one or two lanterns. One lantern in the window if the soldiers were approaching by land, two lanterns in the window if they were approaching by sea, so that from across the bay, Paul Revere could see the lanterns in the window and know which way they were coming and be able to warn the people in the surrounding area. And that's just what happens on the night of April 18th, 1775, when Paul Revere and others will ride as fast as they can on horseback throughout the night to warn people about the approaching British army. Now here's that map again. Here's the town of Boston. So the soldiers could have either come on foot by leaving Boston to the south and then approaching Lexington and Concord this way, or they could have gotten on ships and crossed the bay up here to the north and come from this direction. Paul Revere is waiting on the other side of the bay, waiting to see the lanterns in the Old North Church telling him which direction they're coming. It turns out the soldiers on the night of April 18th board a ship and cross the bay like this. And so Paul Revere's friend hangs two lanterns in the window of the Old North Church. Paul Revere sees that and takes off on his horse, riding as fast as he can up this direction toward Lexington and Concord, warning people along the way that the British army is coming. That if you're hiding supplies or you're hiding soldiers or you're doing anything they're not going to like, you need to hide or you need to run. He makes it to Lexington in the middle of the night, finds Samuel Adams and John Hancock and warns them that they're coming, warns them that they need to hide or run. In Lexington, Paul Revere is joined by two other men, friends of his, Dr. Samuel Prescott and William Dawes. Together, the three of them set off towards Concord to the west, but they are caught and captured by British soldiers. Samuel Prescott escapes from the capture. He and his horse jump over a wall and they escape into the woods. And he is able to make it to Concord to warn the people there about the coming British army. Paul Revere is captured and is held by the British soldiers and questioned at gunpoint, but by the morning they let him go, because by the time the sun comes up, the British soldiers have much bigger problems to deal with than one patriot and the information he might have. Because Samuel Prescott was able to make it to Concord and warn the Minutemen about the soldiers who were coming. So they were ready to fight by the time the soldiers got there in the morning. And next time we get together, we will learn about that fight. We will learn about the Battle of Lexington and Concord and what is truly the beginning of the war for the American Revolution. That's next time's material. That's all I have for you today. See, I told you it would be fast. We even got in less than 11 minutes. Feel free to pause and rewind and go back and watch this as many times as you need. Don't forget about the other assignment on Canvas. There's one more related to this same thing. Email me with questions. Email me with concerns. I will talk to you again soon. I'm looking forward to seeing you after the break, but until then, please enjoy your break.